Don Rickles really hated him more than anyone else. Don Rickles was born Donald J. Rickles on May 8, 1926 in Queens, New York. He came from a regular family and became one of the most famous comedians and actors of the 1900s. He grew up in a neighborhood called Jackson Heights. Rickles was raised in a Jewish family and learned to be funny and quick with words when he was very young. These skills would later make him famous. His father Max Rickles sold insurance and his mother stayed home to take care of the family. She loved him very much and knew he was funny even when he was just a kid. After finishing high school, Rickles went to a school called the American Academy of Dramatic Arts for a little while. At first, he wanted to become a serious actor on Broadway or in movies. His dream was to be a dramatic actor on Broadway or in Hollywood. But his naturally fast sense of humor and talent for making observations slowly pushed him toward a different path, the world of stand-up comedy. After serving in the U.S. Navy during World War II, where he worked as a seaman on a ship called the USS Cyrene in the Pacific Ocean area, Rickles came back home ready to start fresh. Like many veterans from his time, he had trouble at first figuring out what to do next. But his natural charm and personality pulled him toward entertaining people. By the early 1950s, he started performing in nightclubs. At first, he was a struggling actor who would use comedy as extra material between his lines. When he noticed that audiences liked his quick insults better than his serious acting attempts, Rickles went all in on comedy. This choice would completely change his life and leave a huge impact on the world of entertainment. Rickles soon created a special place for himself in the comedy world. Unlike most stand-up comedians back then who told structured jokes or funny stories, Rickles invented a completely new style, insult comedy. He would walk on stage and immediately start making fun of people in the audience, no matter who they were, what they did for work, or how important they were. His sharp tongue didn't spare anyone, from Hollywood celebrities to regular fans. And he became known as the man who could make fun of anyone but still be loved for it. His nickname, Mr. Warmth, was a funny joke because while his words were harsh, they were always said with good-natured humor and real affection underneath. An important moment in Rickles's early career happened when Frank Sinatra, one of the biggest stars in the world, came to one of his shows in Miami. Instead of treating Sinatra with respect like most performers would, Rickles boldly made fun of him from the stage, joking about his power and influence. Instead of getting mad, Sinatra thought it was charming and became one of Rickles's biggest supporters. He introduced him to other celebrities and helped make him part of the Hollywood elite. This friendship not only boosted Rickles's career, but also showed his bravery and confidence, qualities that made his comedy impossible to resist. Soon, Rickles was a regular guest on The Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson and variety shows like the Dean Martin Celebrity Roasts, where his super-fast insults became the best part of the evening. Even though stand-up comedy was the main part of his career, Rickles was also a talented actor. He appeared in movies like Run Silent, Run Deep in 1958, alongside Clark Gable and Burt Lancaster, and later in funny films like Kelly's Heroes in 1970 with Clint Eastwood. His ability to do both serious roles and funny ones showed how versatile he was as a performer. In the 1970s, he starred in his own TV sitcom called CPO Sharky, where his sarcastic humor and biting remarks fit perfectly into the role of a U.S. Navy Chief Petty Officer. He also became a frequent guest on talk shows, loved for being unpredictable and able to make even the most serious host burst out laughing. Rickles's career got a new boost in the 1990s and 2000s, partly because he became the voice of Mr. Potato Head in Pixar's groundbreaking Toy Story movies. A whole new generation of fans got to know him through his work in animated films, where his trademark sarcasm was perfectly captured in the character. He also kept touring well into his 80s, performing in Las Vegas, Atlantic City, and all across the United States. He drew crowds who loved his unapologetically old-school style of comedy. Unlike many performers from his time, Rickles never changed his act to fit modern tastes. Instead, he trusted that his audiences understood his humor came from a place of love rather than meanness. On March 14, 1965, Don Rickles married Barbara Sklar of Philadelphia. This marriage would prove to be one of the most lasting and important parts of his personal life. Rickles, who had built a reputation as the merchant of venom on stage and television for his biting, no-holds-barred comedic insults, often showed a much softer side when talking about Barbara. Many of his colleagues saw their marriage as something that kept him stable and grounded in a world where fame, ego, and career pressures often ruined relationships. Rickles had openly said that finding love had not been easy for him. In his 20s and 30s, even though he was becoming a rising star in the comedy world, he struggled with romance. His sharp wit and sarcastic edge, which audiences loved, often worked against him in personal relationships. It left potential girlfriends either scared or unimpressed. By the time he met Barbara, he was already 38 years old, a bachelor whose friends had started to wonder if he would ever settle down. They met through his agent, a chance introduction that would change the course of Rickles's life. Ironically, Rickles admitted that what attracted him to Barbara was her inability, or maybe unwillingness, to laugh at his jokes. Unlike so many others who hung on his every wisecrack, she was unimpressed with his humor, and this unexpected response fascinated him. To Rickles, Barbara's grounded nature and quiet strength were totally different from the fake world of show business, making her the perfect partner for a man whose life was otherwise filled with the chaos of entertainment. The couple had 2 children, Mindy and Larry, who each made a place for themselves in the world of entertainment, though in different ways. Mindy Rickles became an actress, following in her father's footsteps in front of the camera, though with her own unique path and style. Larry Rickles, meanwhile, found his calling behind the scenes as a producer. Tragically, Larry's life was cut short when he died of pneumonia at the age of 41, a devastating loss for the Rickles family. Don and Barbara, who had always been devoted parents, were deeply shaken by his passing. For a man who spent his life making others laugh, the pain of losing a son remained one of Rickles's deepest sorrows, a reminder that life is fragile, even with fame and success. Despite the tragedies, the joys of family life remained important to Rickles's heart. In his memoir, he shared that his grandchildren, Ethan and Harrison Mann, gave him a fresh and unexpected view of his career. While adults admired his decades-long body of work, his countless late-night appearances, and his groundbreaking influence on comedy, his grandchildren were far more impressed by something much simpler: his voice role as Mr. Potato Head in the Toy Story film series. For them, their grandfather wasn't the legendary insult comic who had sparred with Frank Sinatra or entertained presidents. He was the beloved toy from one of the most iconic animated films of their childhood. Rickles found humor and joy in this generational difference, often joking that all his years of hard work in comedy were overshadowed by a talking plastic potato. Barbara, his wife of over 5 decades, was by his side through it all. Their marriage lasted through the highs and lows of Hollywood life, the challenges of raising children, and the personal struggles that come with long careers in the spotlight. Friends of the couple often talked about the genuine affection and respect that defined their relationship, a partnership built on loyalty, humor, and love. When Barbara passed away from non-Hodgkin lymphoma on March 14, 2021, exactly 56 years to the day after their wedding, it felt like a bittersweet poetic ending to their shared journey. The fact that it was the same date highlighted the depth of their bond, as if even in death their story remained connected. When it came to Don Rickles, the self-proclaimed merchant of venom, there were very few people in the entertainment industry that he genuinely disliked. Most of the time, his harsh insults and razor-sharp jokes were delivered with a wink and a smile, meant to entertain and disarm rather than hurt. However, according to those who knew him best, there was one actor who seemed to trigger something deeper and more personal in Rickles than his usual brand of insult comedy ever suggested: Denzel Washington. Rickles, who had spent decades making fun of everyone from Frank Sinatra to Ronald Reagan, reportedly found Washington not just difficult to warm up to, but a man whose presence annoyed him in ways no other star ever managed to. The reason for Rickles's dislike of Washington went beyond simple personality clashes. Rickles thrived in rooms where laughter flowed freely, where quick wit and self-deprecation allowed him to tear people down only to build them back up with shared laughter. Washington, however, carried himself with a level of seriousness, poise, and intensity that Rickles found almost impossible to break through. Unlike many other celebrities who laughed along with Rickles's insults, no matter how cutting, Washington was known for his stoic demeanor, rarely giving Rickles the satisfaction of a smirk. To Rickles, who lived for the reaction as much as the joke itself, Washington's stone-faced silence felt like the ultimate rejection of his comedic style. It didn't help that Washington's reputation in Hollywood was one of commanding respect, authority, and gravitas. He was seen as an actor who made every role he played better, a performer who carried with him an aura of dignity and discipline. Rickles, in contrast, was a creature of chaos, a comic who thrived on disruption, embarrassment, and discomfort. The clash between their styles and their public personas created an oil and water dynamic. Rickles, who could usually find a way to charm or tease even the toughest personalities, simply could not get through to Washington, and it bothered him more than he ever admitted publicly. Over the years, Rickles often used humor to mask his frustrations. But insiders noted that whenever Washington's name came up in conversation, Rickles's tone shifted. Instead of the playful venom he reserved for his Hollywood friends, there was a sharpness in his voice, a dismissive edge that was unusual even for him. "I'll tell you who doesn't laugh," Rickles was rumored to say privately. "Denzel Washington. The man wouldn't laugh if you paid him. He makes Mount Rushmore look like it's in motion." For a comic who built his entire career on making people laugh in the most unlikely situations, Washington's impenetrability represented not just a personal annoyance, but a professional insult. In some ways, Rickles's animosity toward Washington revealed as much about Rickles himself as it did about Washington. To Rickles, comedy was a form of connection, a way of breaking down barriers and stripping away pretense. When someone resisted his approach, it wasn't merely a rejection of his jokes, it felt like a rejection of him. And so, while Rickles could shrug off countless hecklers, critics, or offended parties over his long career, he couldn't shrug off Washington's refusal to play along. This quiet battle of wills, Rickles's relentless need to draw a laugh, and Washington's equal determination to maintain his dignity, created a unique tension that left Rickles bristling whenever Washington's name was mentioned. Thus, while Don Rickles roasted presidents, celebrities, and friends with equal ferocity, there was something different about the way he regarded Denzel Washington. To Rickles, Washington represented the one mountain he could never climb, the one audience member he could never crack. And for a man whose entire life was dedicated to laughter, that single failure stood out more sharply than any of his triumphs. On April 6, 2017, the entertainment world lost one of its most beloved and influential figures when Don Rickles passed away at his home in Century City, Los Angeles at the age of 90. His death was caused by kidney failure, a condition that had quietly weakened him in his final days, but did not overshadow the energy and sharp wit that had defined him for so many decades. Rickles had lived a long and extraordinary life, one that covered an entire era of American comedy, and his passing marked the end of an age when quick-witted, no-holds-barred humor was delivered with a personal touch that could make audiences laugh while still feeling included in the joke. At the time of his death, tributes poured in from across the entertainment industry, with comedians, actors, directors, and fans expressing their admiration for his groundbreaking career and their sadness at the loss of a man who had been both a trailblazer and a friend to so many.